NCOP says public needs to be educated about legislations and a call for speedy transformation for tertiary institutions. I'm Lebo Changela with this news update. The AdHoc-Committee on the National Council of Provinces dealing with the Protection of State Information Bill says there's a clear need to educate the public about legislation going through Parliament. This follows the first day of public hearings on the so-called Info Bill in Gugulethu outside Cape Town as well as in George. Chairperson of the committee, Babita, was commenting after some residents complained about service delivery instead of making inputs on the content of the bill.
And therefore the press must be free to publish and not be chilled by threats of harsh punishment if they should publish too much or be in a possession of information they should not handle. Scared journalists are bad journalists, and with bad journalists you get a bad democracy.
The Higher Education Transformation Network has called for the speedy transformation of tertiary institutions to prevent what it calls AfriForum campaign to keep former Afrikaans institutions of higher learning exclusively white. The network has called on tertiary institutions, particularly the University of Pretoria, to distance themselves from AfriForum. This after reports that AfriForum allegedly hijacked the University of Pretoria's alumni board, where it controls over 4 million rands worth of student bursaries. The network's executive director, Reginald Lehwebe.
The Afrikaans grouping aimed at keeping Afrikaans higher education institutions exclusively white to exclude black students. We specifically wish to condemn this campaign specifically because according to our analysis of the university's student funding, it indicates that black students get more funding from the National Student Financial Aid Scheme as opposed to the funds of the university. Transformation needs to take place.
Copper theft in the country is likely to increase over the next few months. This finding is contained in the South African Chamber of Commerce and Industry's Copper Theft Barometer. The chamber monitors copper stolen from Eskom, Telkom and Transnet. The chamber COO, Peggy Drusky, says the need for copper is likely to increase as economies like China, India and Korea, who are the biggest importers of copper, start to recover from the weak global economy.
For South Africa, the incidence of copper theft is likely to increase because the demand is going to increase. And as the demand increases, so will the global price of copper. So it would probably mean that in the next few months, we are going to find an increased level of theft.
And Zimbabwean lobby group Crisis and Zimbabwe Coalition and Human Rights Watch have called on SADC leaders to take measures to preempt political violence ahead of a general election in that country. This amid growing calls in Zimbabwe for elections to be held this year to conclude a 3-year transition period. The civil society groupings say the reforms instituted during the transition are insufficient to ensure free and fair elections and that structures responsible for political violence remain intact. Crisis in Zimbabwe's Deva Mapinga.
Our demands and preconditions for elections in Zimbabwe include a new democratic constitution that is accompanied by critical electoral reforms, such as an updated and accurate voters' roll, guarantees for media freedoms, repealing or amending of legislation that hinders free political activity. All service chiefs must issue a public statement committing themselves to restricting their activities to their constitutional mandate and to totally separate themselves from political interference in electoral affairs.